Hello, everyone, and welcome to our fourth installation of the Greenery S Tech Talk series. Today, we are talking about hydroponics for healthy plants. I'm going to start with some introductions. For those of you who I haven't had the pleasure of talking with, my name is Brooke. I'm an account executive here at Freight Farms, and today I am joined by the spectacular Sam Grant. Sam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Sam. I'm our manager of technical support here at Freight Farms. Looking forward to chatting about hydroponics with you.
Awesome. So first thing, just to review our agenda today, we're going to go over what hydroponics is, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, but nonetheless, good to set the tone. And then we will also dive into what hydroponics looks like more in the Greenery S specifically, how you can maximize that through our technology offering here at Freight Farms, as well as just overall benefits of hydroponics, some real life customer examples, and finally your questions and our answers. So with that, I will pass it over to Sam to talk about hydroponics.
All right. So hydroponics, there's a large field of hydroponics out there. So what do we mean by that? Hydroponics is the cultivation of plants by placing them in a liquid solution rather than in soil. Essentially, we want to cut soil out of this whole process. There's a lot of reasons for that. But doing that in a hydroponic system allows us to have no soil. There's a lot of different types of hydroponics. The Greenery S uses two different types of hydroponics in our system. That one of those is the ebb and flow method, which we use in our nursery area, which is where the plants live for the first few weeks of their lives. And then we use a drip irrigation system in the main cultivation area. There's other techniques out there, such as deep water culture, which is where the plants are essentially living in water at all times. The roots will rest in deep water. There's aeroponics, in which there's no actual contact. It's just a high humidity airflow for the plants themselves, or the nutrient film technique, where water is consistently running over the roots, but it's moving all the time. With vertical hydroponic farming, our crops are receiving their nutrients through the water, unlike traditional agriculture, where they're actually getting it from the soil. This gives us a better amount of control over the nutrient content that our plants get. It means we can adjust that as needed for plant health issues if we see it, and also allows us to grow different things more effectively based on the nutrients that we add in. So let's look at the hydroponics that are used in the Greenery S itself. Or the nutrients, sorry. First off, in terms of the nutrients that are utilized in the Greenery S or in any hydroponic system, we utilize a farmhand nutrient system that we just developed recently. If you look at the bags here shown, you'll see that there are 3 different numbers on each bag. Those are the different macronutrients. If you're looking into other nutrient systems, they'll have different amounts of those nutrients. With us, we have the farmhand form, which has the high nitrogen content, which goes hand in hand with farmhand grow to give all the nutrients that your leafy greens might need. If you were looking to grow something that is a flowering plant, such as edible flowers, nasturtiums, violas, you would use farmhand bloom and farmhand form, which has a much higher phosphorus content to allow those plants to get the peak performance. Lastly, we have another one, which is Grow RO, which is farmhand grow for reverse osmosis filters. This is a thing that a lot of people will utilize if their water is a particularly hard water source, has a lot of minerals. Just gives you better control on that source water coming in. So if you filter it and then start from scratch and add all the nutrients, you can get an optimal grow.
Awesome. And one thing I do want to add in here on our nutrient line is that we did actually just launch our new farmhand shop, as Sam alluded to, with our recent release of nutrients. And something that's coming, not yet quite in place, but an exciting thing is that we will have subscriptions for supplies on shop. So that allows customers to bundle and save and have reliable quarterly fulfillments of their supplies, nutrients included. So if you are a customer or becoming one soon, keep an eye out for that.
Right, so on to the technology itself in the Greenery S. We'll take a quick look at the nursery station to start. So our nursery station has space for 16 different seedling trays in it. There are 2 troughs, top and bottom, and both of those seedling troughs utilize the ebb and flow system that I kind of mentioned quickly earlier. The way that the Greenery S does this is it uses a vertically integrated water tank, which is on the left-hand side of that seedling table. See that image above has a few different water pumps in it. All those are controlled through our farmhand hub system. They can be automated on a particular schedule to water on the cycle that you like. But each of those the troughs, top and bottom, will water about every 8 hours to get those seedlings the water that they need, that nutrient-rich water, which we create within the Greenery S itself using our dosing system. Our dosing system is on the right-hand side of the table, built in. That's the lower image on the right. So our nutrient delivery system uses 4 different nutrient reservoirs. These are for liquid nutrients. So the farmhand nutrients we showed you a moment ago are actually a powder. You need to add water to reconstitute them. That's to keep shipping costs down. Shipping heavy jugs of liquid nutrients is expensive. So you reconstitute those nutrients and then you add them into these nutrient delivery tanks. From there, each tank is connected to what is called a peristaltic pump. These can be used to add very small doses of nutrients into the tank of either the seedling nursery station or the main cultivation station. And each of those pumps is connected to those nutrient delivery reservoirs. Additionally, in that cabinet on the right-hand side of the seedling table, we have a couple sensors that are constantly taking readings of your nutrient content in the water, as well as the pH content of the water. When your nutrient content goes below a certain level, the automation and farmhand hub will add nutrients in using those small peristaltic pumps based on the doses that are programmed by you. From there, if the pH content of the water is not optimal for growing, it'll add a pH additive, which is typically what that 3rd tank is used for. And then the 4th tank is spare. You can add another additive if you'd like, or another pH additive if you would like to control pH more precisely. There's also in that vertically integrated tank, there are a few sensors that will determine the level of the water to prevent those pumps from running without any water. If you have a permanent water hookup, our system will add in water using the autofill function as necessary to keep everything submerged and make sure your plants keep getting water. On the opposite side, our nutrient reservoirs also will notify you if they become empty so that you know to go refill them if you're not at the farm. So the actual seedling table itself uses the ebb and flow method, as I briefly mentioned earlier. Essentially, you'll use seedling trays, which are either 200 or 288 cell trays, which you put peat moss grow plugs into, and then add a seed into each plug. Those plants are going to live in this trough for approximately 3 weeks. They're going to get watered on an 8-hour cycle, which is adjustable if you'd like, but the ebb and flow of the system is going to fill up those flat seedling troughs with water where the roots are submerged in those seedlings. And then they're going to sit in that water as it slowly drains back into the tank. That way, that same water is utilized multiple times, and the nutrient content of that water can be replenished by the nutrient delivery system that we showed you a moment ago.
And one thing that I will add here as well is this plastic dome you see is something that helps in part of the hydroponic system that we have in capturing humidity for germination in early stages of seedlings, just to encourage strong growth in those first few weeks.
All right, now let's look at the technology of the cultivation area of the greenery, which is a different system entirely. So in the main cultivation area, we actually use a vertical growing system. But first and foremost, we have a completely separate main water tank reservoir. This is a 90-gallon tank, which is in the rear of the farm. This is a much higher and more nutrient-rich water than the seedling tank, actually. And we use those sensors that were in that nutrient delivery system to take constant readings and add nutrients in as needed to keep that content higher. The more mature plants do require more nutrients. That's why they are at different levels. And so from that main tank of 90 gallons, there's an overhead irrigation system that will water based on the schedule that you determine through farmhand. It'll also add in additional nutrients when the nutrient content drops, or add in pH additives to keep your pH in the optimal range.
Very cool. And Sam, do you know what type of crop is shown here, just out of curiosity?
I do. That one is a red borer kale. It's a little bit taller than normal, but it's that's a very much so one of our favorite kales to grow. Actually, it's a personal recommendation of some of the growers that work here.
Very cool.
All right. So in terms of the actual irrigation aspect of the main cultivation area, within that main tank, there are two separate pumps that are going to use an overhead irrigation system to drip water essentially through the roots of the plants that are on these plant walls. So each half of the farm can be controlled separately, and the pumps are going to send that nutrient-rich water from the cultivation tank overhead, and then it's going to come out through those small drip emitters that you can see on the top of this image. These drip emitters are going to drip at a maximum flow rate of about 2 gallons per hour each. There are 440 of them in the farm. There's 5 on each panel for a total of 88 panels where you can grow your crops. As those irrigation, as drip emitters are dripping water, it's actually falling onto a small cotton strip, which you can kind of see there. And that cotton strip is touching the roots of the crops in the main grow area, which is where they are absorbing those nutrients.
All right. So thanks, Sam, for talking through the systems of the farm. And you probably heard Sam multiple times allude to the sensors and the technology that allows all of those hydroponic systems to really work. So if you're curious in learning more about Farmhand, which is our software that Sam had alluded to, we will be dedicating our entire next Tech Talk to Farmhand as well. So next month, if you tune in to our Tech Talk in September, we'll be doing a deep dive into the Farmhand technology and a lot of the improvements that have come out. So I definitely suggest that. But for today's purposes, I'm going to share a little bit more about how Farmhand relates to the hydroponic technology that we've talked about today. So there's a number of ways that Farmhand really helps you as an operator. But if you really want to break it down, it's about declaring control, consistency, and data visibility across your operation. So as you can see here on this sample computer screen, you have an at-a-glance view of all of the different components in your farm and the live real-time data of each of those components. So for things like your nutrient levels, or the pH of your water, or the water tank levels like Sam was talking about, you can log in and see exactly where those are at any given time to make sure that they're in line with what your expectations are for your operation. But beyond just looking at the data in real time, you do also have programming capabilities. Sam mentioned a lot about the peristaltic pumps that dose nutrients and pH. So you're able to program all of that to keep the farm at consistent nutrient levels, pH levels, and all sorts of other things for the different areas of your farm, appropriate for seedling and also appropriate for mature crops. Another thing is that you are able to cross-analyze that data. So you can kind of see a little bit of that here, where you've got different components. For here, it's lights, temperature, and humidity, but you could do this with nutrients, pH, and water level as well. just allowing you as an operator to get some insight on those data points and how they relate to your farm operation and learnings for how you can improve your operations moving forward. The last thing I'll touch on this slide is that something we're really excited about implementing into our new farmhand technology are recipes. So we're developing lots of preset settings that you can just turn on in your farm to create the perfect growing conditions for a certain recipe. For example, right now at our HQ, we're working on a maxed out lettuce recipe. So essentially giving them the most nutrients to produce the biggest lettuce in the shortest amount of time. That's still good quality. So more things like this we're going to be releasing for our customers to implement. But as always, you can do with it as you see fit as well and change those recipes.
One of the really powerful things about farmhand is that your farm is going to be online, which is kind of a weird thing to say about a farm, but I can from my phone look at a couple hundred farms throughout the world because tech support, I get that convenience. But additionally, with farmhand, you can set up notifications that if any of your parameters are out of line, or even if just something activates and you just want to know, you can set up custom notifications with our new farmhand hub that can be sent via email or via text to let you know if you're 2,000 miles away from your farm, you still know what's going on.
Absolutely. So this is all fine and good. What does it really mean for you as an operator in real world terms? What Sam alluded to, anywhere in the world you can operate. That's physically you as an operator, even if you're not with your farm, but also wherever your farm is, whether it's a really dry area or a really hot and humid area, you're able to farm year round, no matter what the conditions are externally. And you're also able to save a lot of water in this system based on the hydroponics systems that we have implemented. For a fun data point, the farm only uses an average of 5 or so gallons of water a day, which is about 99% less water than traditionally soil grown crops in traditional agriculture. So it's very efficient as well in terms of how much water you're using when compared with other forms of farming. You're also going to be able to grow healthy crops. And of course, we mean healthy for you as a consumer or your customers as a consumer, but we more so mean that the crops themselves are going to be healthy. And that's because you can provide them with those custom nutrients that Sam was talking about that are exactly what they need at different stages of growth. And you're also able to cut out the sorts of pests or contaminants that can potentially come in from water or soil, because you have in a completely closed environment over which you have complete control of all of those parts and pieces. So that's another huge part of being able to provide your customers with a consistent and healthy crop. And what all this really results in is that you have a healthy plant that is food safe and high quality, as well as really, really fresh. So you've got great taste as well. So here are a couple of customer examples in two very different places of the world. First is Lotus House in Miami. They were actually one of our first Greenery customers. They're a nonprofit down in Florida, and they actually are water positive. The high humidity in their location means that they are actually reclaiming more water from the environment around them than they are using in their farm operation. And very differently, in Jordan, we have a school that's operating in an area where water is scarce, and otherwise they wouldn't be able to grow food, but using their freight farm, they're able to. All right, so we're now going to transition into all your questions. So make sure you send those in the Q&A tab if you haven't already. And Sam, are you ready for some questions?
Absolutely.
All right. So first question, can you have different nutrient levels for different seedlings depending on the requirement or preference in the nursery station?
So in the nursery station itself, because it all draws along the same water tank, you would need the same nutrient content if they were growing at the same time. However, because you can customize the schedules of watering, as well as all the other aspects of your nutrient content, if you were to decide to grow something different a following week, then you could, and you can have different nutrient content for that next batch of crops.
All right, very good. Let's see. Next question. Is a water test needed or additional filtration needed for the Greenery S?
We always recommend testing your water because that's what's going to determine if you do need filtration. That's why we introduced that farmhand grow RO, because we do see a lot of farmers in remote areas sometimes need a reverse osmosis filtration because their water is particularly hard water, has a lot of minerals in it. Over time, that can affect the health of your plants and reduce your yields. So if you get a water test done and your water is outside of our recommended parameters, then we can advise you on recommendations for a filtration system in the greenery.
All right.
A lot of areas do not require this, however.
Okay. So then I guess the next question I'll ask is, will the systems, this is a fun one, automatically continue on plan in the event of a power outage?
They will. In the event of a power outage, the system will essentially turn off. There would be no way for the pumps and the lighting to operate while the power is off, but as soon as power is restored, the system will automatically reboot and pick up where it left off. There is an internal clock inside the controller that when it regains power and it can start to power everything again, the system will reboot and pumps and lighting will restart.
Okay. And one other note that I'll add to that is that if you are in an area where you're concerned about regular power outages, we also can suggest different size generators based on your needs as an operator to allow you to have some security in how your farm is operating in the chance that you have some consistent or long-term concerns about power outages. Okay. Let's see. How do you keep the drip clean, and do you require a certain type of water to do that?
So cleaning those is actually really easy. Typically, you'll see some buildup on where it's over time, but you can, as part of our regular maintenance, we do recommend cleaning those every few months. You just go through and essentially wipe them off. If your water does have a high calcium content in it, then there's a strong possibility that you'll have to do this more often. But typically, if you have a high enough calcium content to see that problem, you might also benefit from filtration in the first place.
Got it. Yeah, and as a part of maintenance, just regularly, that's a part of your regular weekly schedule, right, Sam?
Yes. So the cleaning of the emitters, it wouldn't be weekly, but there is a recommended schedule that our team suggests you stick to. It'll prolong the life of the equipment in your farm and generally gets you better results in terms of your plants if you stick to it as well.
Great. Can you use collected rainwater?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no reason why you couldn't do that. You would just need to have enough of it to refill the tanks when you do.
Great. Yeah. So if you're in a rainy area, it probably makes sense to do that. I think we have a few customers that do that, right?
At least a couple. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. So what is the nutritional value of food grown without soil in a freight farm? And I'll answer this because I get this question a lot in calls with customers. It's interesting. Soil is essentially a medium through which your plants get their nutrients. Soil has lots of nutrients in it, which is why we're so used to thinking that soil equals nutrients for food. But ultimately in the system, we're using water as a medium for those nutrients, and we're able to isolate those and get them in concentrations and actually control them even more sometimes than you can through soil, because you do have that ability to really program and control on micro levels, those levels of nutrients. So in some ways, you might be able to make a more nutritionally dense product even than traditionally possible. How often do you have to pump out and replace your water and nutrients? And what do you do with the waste?
So this is one of those things that can depend on your source water for sure, but we typically recommend every 1 to 3 months that you would replace the water in the main cultivation area. The reason being here is that over time, you will start to get an imbalance in those micronutrients and you'll see plant health issues. There's no reason why you couldn't continue using the same water for a very long period of time, except that you may notice some plant health concerns. In terms of what to do with that water, a lot of people use it in other gardens if they have like another garden or other land nearby. But if you don't have a way to use it to reuse the water, you would have to treat it as gray water. And that's something that you would need to figure out with local regulations if you have to find a specific way to get rid of that.
Yeah, municipalities tend to have their own rules, so it's always important to check, but nutrient dense water can be used for a lot of things. This is another good one going about, how different customers have different scenarios they deal with. I live in an area with no municipal water system. Is it possible to connect an external water tank to the Greenery S?
That's actually what we do in Boston. Our farm is underneath Route 93. We weren't going to get water to that. And so we have large water tanks connected to the exterior of the unit. If you were to do that, you may need an inline pump to get enough water pressure from those tanks, but there's no reason that you couldn't store water directly next to your farm if you didn't have another way to get it.
And can you insulate those for different climates and things like that?
Yes, if you're in a particularly cold area, you will want to insulate that, or you've got a really big ice cube on your hands. But we have some solutions on solving that. There are ways to keep the water in there warm, and just generally insulating them to prevent freezing is typically sufficient.
Gotcha. All right. Do you have to use Freight Farm's proprietary powdered nutrients, or can others be substituted?
You don't have to use our stuff at all. No, we like to provide that as an option for people to make sure that our shop has what our farmers need. That's why we created our shop. We created our nutrients because, like I said earlier, liquid nutrients are very expensive to ship, and so we created our own powdered nutrients so that we could offer those on our shop. There's no explicit requirement to use our things. If you can find something more local to you that's cheaper and more effective for you, then by all means go for it.
Great. Yeah. And I mean, the farmhand shop has a lot on there, but ultimately it's up to the customer what works best for you all. We just want to make sure we can provide the things that help you be successful. All right. Well, I'm thinking that we've gotten through most of the questions, which is great. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. And thank you, Sam, for sharing all your customer support knowledge. It's always great to get some insight from someone who's working in these farms every day. One last thing that I'd like to leave everyone here with is that if you are interested in continuing to attend events like this, whether it's tech talks or farm tours, customer webinars, we have a events calendar, which we'll be posting in the chat. So you can check out that link, register for any events that you'd like to attend. And I would highly recommend checking out our next tech talk on farmhand. as well as we have a farm tour coming up at the end of this month, if you want to see the inside of the greenery. So that's everything. Thank you again for tuning in, everyone, and we hope that you have a great rest of your day, whether it's morning or evening, wherever you're at in the world.
Thanks everyone for coming.